The average moderates, the optimal eliminates. So the average person will reduce the amount of sugar they have. They will reduce the amount of fast food they have. They will reduce the amount of ultra processed food they have. The optimal, those of us who are gunning for the New York Times bestseller, those are us who are gunning to make Black history. We eliminate the refined processed sugar. We eliminate the things that upsets our stomach. We eliminate the things that causes brain fog. We don't just have it on a week. We don't just have it sometimes. Like the average moderates, the optimal eliminates.
Optimal health is not a privilege, it's a right. However, unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of health challenges today can be attributed to lifestyle. This includes our physical activity, the quality of our relationships, stress, purpose and fulfillment, and of course, our diet. But what if there was an alternative? What if we could prevent and combat these health challenges with lifestyle changes before pills and procedures? You are listening to the Plant Protocol podcast with yours truly, plant-based health and business coach, and now the forever voice in your head, Lisa A. Smith. It's time to come get this health. I have emails I need to answer. I have clients I need to coach. I have proposals I need to finish. I have opportunities I need to follow up on. I have a team that I need to meet with. I have somebody that I need to let go. I have somebody that I need to onboard. Oh, I also, amongst all that, want to make sure I spend time with my family. I want to make sure that I take care and follow up with my best friend who reached out to me. I want to make sure that I get around to following up and checking in with my mentor because they just emailed me and I don't want to forget about them. And I have a plethora of things that I need to do. And it's a completely overwhelming. I'm a little bit stressed out. No, a lot of bit stressed out. And I'm not exactly sure where to start. I don't exactly know where the to-do list will end. But all I know is that I have to keep going because I have to keep all of these balls in the air and I can't let a ball drop because if I do, then things are going to fall apart. And I want to make sure that I'm successful because I have goals and I have things I want to accomplish. But also, I really want to help people and I really want to be there for people. Here's the truth. All entrepreneurs, all successful entrepreneurs has a very, very valid reason to be stressed. We have reasons that we can name endlessly. This needs to get done. This needs to be followed up on. This needs to be created. Oh, wait, did I create content today? I need to record some content. I need to edit some content. I need to post some content. If I'm not doing it, I got to give it to somebody else to do. Then I got to train them on how to do it. And then I got to make sure they did it right. And I got to make sure I follow up. And 18 people need 19 decisions from me. And there's a ton of things to do literally all of the time. Here's the truth. Again, every single entrepreneur has super valid reasons on why they get to be stressed out. 100% fact, very valid reasons, undeniable reasons, right? But the truth of the matter is part of the reason a lot of us are struggling in our business, a lot of us are overwhelmed by our business, by our responsibilities, by the things that we're creating. It's not because of all the valid reasons we have to be overwhelmed and stressed out. It's simply because of an overactive nervous system, right? And so this chronic stress is keeping us in a constant state of burnout and overwhelm. If you are an entrepreneur who has struggled with burnout or overwhelm, you're in the right place today because I want to break down for you why it's happening and what we need to do about it. However, before I move forward in today's episode of Monday Morning Keynote, I need to give a disclaimer. I feel compelled to give a disclaimer because there's an advantage that I have in today's conversation. There's an advantage that I have because in the work that I do, in the company that I run, we focus on health. We focus on eliminating chronic stress. We focus on regulating the nervous system. And so the reason I'm so keenly aware of several of the things that I'm going to talk about today is because not only have I lived it, but I also am a teacher of it. I'm a coach of it. I'm an instructor of it. And so I feel compelled. You know how you go to a conference or something and the doctors and the experts on the panel, they have to reveal if they have a relationship with some of the companies they're promoting, right? I don't know why I feel compelled to reveal the intimate relationship I have with health and the privilege that I have in today's conversation, because I'm fully aware that not every successful entrepreneur works in the health and wellness space, obviously, right? And so they all don't have the same insight that I have, but I have a different insight in this space. And so I feel compelled to share that at the top of today's episode. So I'm excited about today. And I'm excited about talking about the main reason why many entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs especially, really struggle in this area of burnout and overwhelm. And as we go through today's conversation, I'm really looking forward to breaking this down and hearing from you guys, right? The real reason we're feeling exhausted and stuck. And I want to talk about this exhaustion, this mentally drained, brain fog, right? And then physical health being compromised as a result of all the work that we're trying to do, all the balls that we're trying to keep in the air. So today's conversation should be a good one. Welcome to Monday Morning Keynote with yours truly, Coach Lisa A. Smith, the founder of Clarity, an ecosystem that's dedicated to 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs who are trying to regulate the nervous system, eliminate chronic stress. And we do that by simplifying the business model and optimizing the nervous system. And so I'm super excited to move forward through this conversation today. So many successful entrepreneurs have a great amount of evidence as to why they can be stressed, right? And if we were all to commune together and exchange reasons about why we're overwhelmed, we would all be super valid. However, one of the things that I know also to be true, because this was a mind blower for me, and I don't know if a lot of you guys knew this, but first of all, there's 2 types of stress, right? So there's acute stress and there's chronic stress. And when we think about stress, the overwhelming majority of us have never used the term acute stress or chronic stress. We just say stress, right? We don't usually talk in those terms. However, as I've been studying, stress and neuroscience over the last several years, learning, number one, that there's 2 different types of stress, and one is healthy for us, acute stress, and one is extremely dangerous. And when I say extremely dangerous, I mean deadly, and that's chronic stress. And what I used to do, I used to wear a badge of honor at the fact that I didn't have any chronic stress, right? I used to be so proud of the fact that, wow, I'm helping a lot of people. They're really dealing with some tough circumstances, some tough situations. And I feel so good that I've done the work to not have those issues that create chronic stress. So examples of these things for a lot of the people that I've served have looked like health challenges, physical health challenges, mental health challenges, emotional health challenges, fractured relationships, broken marriages. It has looked like financial instability. It has looked like unhealed from childhood disappointment. So things that they get triggered by, and it brings up memories of rejection, or it brings up memories of loss, or it brings up a traumatic experience that we haven't quite healed from. And so as I was helping people through these different forms of chronic stress, I also at the same time was super grateful that I have acute stress like all of us do. None of us are going to go through life avoiding all stress. But I had the healthy stress, right? The acute stress. That was until I learned that burnout is a form of chronic stress. Now, here I am thinking that everything's all good. I got the regular inconveniences and the things that come up, and once they're handled, they're good. And that's the acute stuff. Not realizing that being burnt out as an entrepreneur, right? Being completely exhausted for an extended amount of time with an overwhelming amount of pressure in a cycle that you don't feel like you can get out of, that burnout is a form of chronic stress. I had no idea. I thought unhealthy stress, the chronic stress, simply looked like those things I named, right? You either have issues in your health or your healing or your money or your career. Many of the people I work with, they are struggling in their career. They even,
either hate it, they're miserable, or their business is not doing what they wanted to do. And so it creates all of this pressure, right? And so because I had none of those things, health, optimal, at least physically, right? Mentally, right now, when you're burnt out, there's definitely an amount of mental exhaustion that's there. I, didn't have all of those other challenges until I learned that burnout was a form of chronic stress. And the reason this is so important is because a lot of entrepreneurs, even though things may seem and appear okay, like, no, my relationships are good. I healed from that one thing I needed to heal from. I healed from the second thing I needed to heal from. Financially, I'm stable. I'm stable. And you would think I'm just overwhelmed by all of my responsibilities. And you would think, but I'm not stressed out. But you are. And part of the reason a lot of our businesses are being compromised and the success of our businesses are being compromised is for that exact reason, is we're chronically stressed and don't even know it. We don't realize that the pressure that we're feeling, the chronic pressure that we're feeling, the chronic exhaustion that we're feeling is part of the reason why we're stuck in business. And a lot of times in business, when things are not going in the direction we want to go, or if we're not having the wins that we want to have, we attribute it to something in the business, right? We're like, okay, there's a system that I need to fix. There's a role that I need to hire for. There's a task that I need to outsource or delegate. Maybe there's team members that I need to train better, communicate better with. Maybe I just need to be better as a leader. Not realizing that in business, for a lot of high-performing individuals, part of the reason things are not moving in the direction that we want them to move is a biological reason. It's a biological reason. It's not a systems issue. It's not a leadership issue. It's not that something is broken. It's not like, oh, I need to do better with my content, or I need to charge more. First and foremost, for a lot of us, unbeknownst to us, our bodies are chronically stressed. We have a biological reason for our business being stalled. We have a biological reason for things not moving in the direction that we ideally want them to move in. And this is a very, very dangerous or risky place to be, because for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's unbeknownst to us, right? It's unbeknownst to us. And so we don't realize that the overwhelm and the burnout is a form of chronic stress, which means our nervous system has been dysregulated for months or sometimes even years, depending on how long you've been feeling this pressure. And so we're mentally tired, emotionally, we're stretched completely thin, and our business growth has suffered as a result of it. Okay. So I want to share with you guys a few things that are compromised immediately when we are burnt out and chronically stressed as leaders, as entrepreneurs. And then I want to tell you a few things that you can do to start correcting the issue, because the new business strategy doesn't solve everything. And for a lot of you listening, even if you don't have a business yet, and you're not there yet, you're not a 6 or 7 figure entrepreneur, this will be a great prerequisite to becoming one. Because for many people, unfortunately, the optimization of our health is not a line item in our business plan. I'm going to say it again. For a lot of us, the optimization of our health is not a line item in our business plan. And that is a problem. I did a speaking engagement a few months ago in Atlanta. And one of the things I said on stage to the audience when I was referring to my diet is that my health and how I eat is a competitive advantage in my marketplace. And I know for many people, they never consider what's at the end of their fork as part of their competitive advantage in their business. Many people never intersect their kitchen and their home office. Many people never intersect their kitchen and their home office, right? Now, let me be very clear about this, because there is some data that we know to be true that talks about the habits of the most successful people in the world, right? So here's what I don't want people to get confused. There is data that shows the most successful people in the world, they have some habits that they practice on a regular basis. And one of those is movement and exercise. So here's what I don't want you to think I'm saying. I don't want you to think I'm saying that people who are successful, that they're not exercising or they're not trying to be conscious about what they eat. They are. They are. Like the most successful people in the world usually absolutely have an exercise routine, sometimes usually even a coach or a trainer that they see regularly. They are intentional about trying to eat halfway decent. Like what I'm not suggesting is that there's no effort. What I'm saying is that they do those things almost just part of a routine because they know we need to. But when it comes to the burnout and the overwhelm and the stress and the pressure they feel from being a leader, that part isn't being addressed. So just having an exercise regimen or just being intentional about trying to eat halfway decent is not enough. For a lot of individuals, they absolutely are ignoring the thing that they are completely stressed out about. Not on purpose, they just don't know any better. Like they just don't realize that the stress is compromising the business. So you could be physically fit. You can have absolutely no diagnoses. You can be on no medications. All your tests and blood work can be coming back fine. And you can still be chronically stressed and therefore compromising your business performance and your performance as a leader, right? And for a lot of us who are aiming for that reality, which is to have a successful business and to be a leader, if right now we don't understand the importance of the intersection between our health and our business, we're just going to grow into this leader and this success story with these terrible habits who has normalized stress and overwhelm and burnout and has normalized it so much that the story we tell is that that's what it takes to get there. Right? We tell the stories that, if you want to go far, if you want to be exceptional, if you want to be above average, this is what it's going to take to get there. But here's what I know to be true. I said that my health is a competitive advantage in business. What a lot of people don't realize is that just being what the world defines as healthy, which is no disease. Most people claim they're healthy because they don't have a diagnosis, which is not true. They're healthy, but they're not optimal, right? So if somebody doesn't have a diagnosis, they'll say they're healthy, right? That's what we call the middle of the road, the average definition, right? I don't have a diagnosis, so look, I'm healthy. Okay. But the level of success that a lot of us want to achieve that requires a level of cognitive functioning that most of us don't activate requires optimal health. So when I say a level of cognitive functioning, that is how creative you need to be, for example. That is how responsive you need to be. That is how well you critically think, right? If you want to be above average in your career, whether this is climbing a ladder in your 9 to 5 or building a really successful business and brand, being healthy, i.e. not having a disease, is not enough. You need to be optimally healthy. That is, even though I don't have a disease, I go out of my way to perform in my health as if I got something I'm trying to fight, right? That means I am going like I am intentional. And that includes things like rest and restoration and eliminating chronic stress immediately. So for a lot of high performers, they absolutely have healthy habits. They are not sedentary. They don't put a bunch of trash in their body. But for the overwhelming majority of them, unequivocally, because I've worked with them personally, they've either been my coaches or I've been in their ecosystems, like multiple people over the years, not one person, not two people, multiple 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs that I've worked with, shared spaces with, or coached them myself. Stress is through the roof. It's through the roof. And so they have these healthy, like they're exercising, they're walking, they're running, they have trainers, they are intentional about eating salads and drinking water and trying to get good sleep, and they'll take supplements, but their nervous system is still dysregulated. And so they're healthy by an average doctor's definition, but they're not optimal enough to perform like their business is requiring for them. And for a lot of you, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like you can't afford to be middle of the road healthy if you want to be successful. And many people have really decided that middle of the road healthy is a good enough baseline. And it's just not. So if your nervous system is dysregulated, that means you are burnt out. That means you are overwhelmed. That means you are chronically putting out fires. And when there's not a fire to put out, you almost creating one because you don't know what calm, peace, and quiet looks like or feels like. Matter of fact, it's uncomfortable. If there's not a problem to solve, you don't know what to do with your little fingers, right? If there is not a fire to put out, you lighten one, okay? Just to put something out, because you're constantly on. Even when you try and rest, you can't relax, right? That type of health, even though physically you might not have a diagnosis, is compromising the business and compromising everything you put your hands on. So the question becomes like, how do we correct this, right? Because one thing I know for certain is that you never know what the difference maker is going to be. So before I tell you how, let me tell you why you should, okay? For a lot of us, the health of the business, the success of the business has been compromised for a while because we're burnt out and chronically stressed. And we know on paper that's not healthy, but we don't know it well enough to do something aggressive and radical about it. But my thing is, we never know what that difference maker is going to be, right? So if I'm gunning to, let me make this very plain, okay? I'm about to be bold about a goal that I haven't completely shared publicly, okay? So I'm releasing a book about radical obedience, and I want to hit the New York Times bestseller list, okay? So when you're gunning for the New York Times bestseller list, there is a lot of work. Like, it doesn't matter how good the book is, right? Because people don't buy the book because it's good. They buy the book because of who you are. Eventually, once the book is out and enough people have read it, then we buy the book because it's good, right? But before that, nobody knows it's good. So they don't buy the book because it's good. They buy the book because of how well you have marketed the book. Does that make sense, y'all? So because you have to do so much marketing to make this list, if you don't already have, celebrity behind you or whatever, that means there's a lot to do, right? You might have to do a tour. You might have to do a podcast circuit, you work the podcast circuit. You might have to do a ton of engagements. You might have to do some readings. You might have to do press. You might have to do, of course, different campaigns on social media and things like that. Like, there's work that comes into having a goal that big. Now, if you are only middle of the road healthy, not overweight, no disease, no medications, I work out regularly, I take my supplements, I drink my water, right? You middle of the road healthy, but you're chronically burnt out and overwhelmed. And now you have this big goal to hit this list, right? And somebody else, 2 doors down, got the same goal, and y'all book is dropping in the same week, right? And you middle of the road healthy, but they've been coming to Monday morning keynotes, and they've been listening to the Plant Protocol podcast, and they know that middle of the road healthy is not good enough. Now, you don't know that. You ain't been coming here. But your competition is 2 doors down. That's dropping their book in the same week you dropping theirs. And they said on the same day that you said that they gunning for the New York Times, like, they've been coming. Like, they've been listening. And they realize, like, oh, it ain't enough to just exercise. Like, oh, I got to meditate too. I got to calm my nervous system down. It ain't enough to just meditate. Oh, I got to eliminate. It ain't enough to manage stress. I got to eliminate. I got to make some tough decisions to get the things out of my life that are chronically stressing me out. They know this. You don't know this. You think middle of the road healthy is enough to hit the New York Times list, but they know that optimal health is what you truly need. And so they're able to do just 2 more podcast interviews than you were able to do because they had enough energy physically and cognitively to do it. They were able to do just 1 or 2 more appearances than you were able to do that exposed them to a few more 100,000 people than you were able to because you were just too tired to execute. They were able to be intentional about the content that they created that really resonated with people and got a slightly bigger reach than you were able to get when you were creating your content in that run up to that list. And because they were optimally healthy, they were able to beat the list, and they were able to make the list by just 500 more book sales than you. Why? Because they were optimal and you were just middle of the road healthy. And as a result, they made the list and you missed it by like a few sales. You missed it by a few votes. Shout out to your president who don't want to believe it. So I don't think you guys understand the difference. It can feel minute, but it turns out to be big. You never know what the difference makers can be. I would hate to know that I didn't hit my goal because that person whose book was coming out at the same time as mine, they had just slightly more energy to create slightly better content, marketing content that gave them a slightly bigger reach because they were more energetic, because their nervous system was at baseline, because there was no hyperactivity in their brain, because they had done the work to eliminate the things that were stressing them out. So they didn't have distractions from people in their life who were taken from them because they got rid of those relationships. They didn't have distractions from a team who wasn't trained up properly because they had the energy to properly train them. They weren't distracted from a relationship that was broken because they had the energy to pour into their relationship to make sure home base was good so that the office could be focused on. I need you to understand, when you are chronically stressed as a high performer, as an entrepreneur, as someone who has big goals, big vision, gunning for big things, you can't afford to be middle of the road healthy. And if you're physically well, you're not overweight, you're eating halfway decent, but you're chronically burnt out, stressed out, and overwhelmed, you are not optimally healthy. So it is your nervous system that is compromising the business, because now that they had just a little more energy to market just slightly better than you, and they've made the list, guess what that means for them? That means speaking gigs, the price has gone way up. They're a New York Times bestseller coming to the stage now. So now they can charge 20, 30, 40 more K than you can charge because they made the list and you didn't. Like, their opportunities are grander now. Like, the organizations are reaching out to partner with them and consult with them now just because they had 10% more energy because they were optimally healthy and they were able to make the list. You never know what the difference maker will be. And for many of you, because you have a mediocre mindset, meaning middle of the road, average has always been enough. Not because you've consciously thought this is good enough, I'm gonna stop here, but because the whole world around you is middle of the road, average, and you're fitting right in. And so you never thought about what optimal could look like. You never thought what the best version of you could look like. You just thought, look, I don't have a diagnosis. Ain't that the goal, not to have a diagnosis? No, the goal is not to have a diagnosis. That's the cost of entry for health. That should not be the finish line. That should be the starting line. But because everybody around you is diagnosed with something, everybody around you is overweight, everybody around you is stressed out, because you don't have those few things, you calling yourself done, and now you're not going to make the list. You never know what the difference maker will be. That's what I came to tell you. As an entrepreneur, if you're chronically burnt out and stressed out and overwhelmed, and you're not doing the work to correct it, and you're just letting yourself believe that this is the cost of success, that this burnout, this overwhelm, that this is the cost of entry to get to the next level, you're wrong. An overactive nervous system will sabotage everything you're building. Full stop. It will sabotage everything you're building. Okay? And so we have to stop. So first things first, what is optimal? That's the first thing you got to figure out, because the world will only show you average. The world will only show you average. And so if you think simply not having a diagnosis is optimal, you won't even know you ain't optimal. Right? I remember being at the track one time and I was doing sprints, and I was, I'm lean, right? And so I'm at the track and I'm doing sprints, and this guy literally was like, "Why are you here?" And I'm like, "Wet." Wet. He's like, "You look slim, you look fit. Why are you here? Why are you going so hard?" And I'm like, "Oh, he's average." He doesn't know that, and this is not judgment. You got to understand, people have to be taught and exposed to optimal. Like, you're not going to see it on your own. Do y'all get what I'm saying? Like, you have to be exposed to optimal. And if you are only taught and exposed to average, you won't even know that optimal is a whole different category, right? And so when you haven't been taught or exposed to average, you look at somebody lean in the gym and wondering why, or you judge somebody who, doesn't have a diagnosis, who's not overweight, but who's still turning down fast food and sugar. Like, you can afford a little sugar. No, you can afford a little sugar because you operate from average. I can't, because I'm gunning for the New York Times bestseller. So if I eat that sugar, that means tomorrow pieces of content are gonna not be my best. And I can't afford to release something that's not my best because I have an optimal goal. When you have average goals, you can afford a little bit of sugar. You can afford a little bit of caffeine. You can afford a little bit of dairy because it makes your stomach hurt. You can afford to keep pressing past your limit when you're trying to work and not taking that time to restore. You can afford to keep delaying tough decisions and staying in a cycle of chronic stress because we're not gunning for the same thing. But don't look at me and be like, you healthy? You can have a drink. You healthy? You can have dessert. You healthy? You can skip a workout. Yeah, but both of us ain't gunning for the New York Times. You can. I can't. You're gunning for 401k and, just to keep a roof over your head. I'm gunning for something that only the optimal achieve. Don't look at somebody and tell them what they can afford when you don't know what their goals are. My friend, you have not been exposed to optimal. You've only been exposed to average. So you look at me and you say, you look above average. You can afford that junk. You look above average. You can afford to skip some sleep. You look above average. You can afford not to address those issues in your relationship right away. No, I can't, because I can't afford for home base to be off balance, because everybody knows when home base with your family, with your spouse, with your partner, with your kids is off balance, it's going to disrupt everything else you do. I know what optimal looks like. So what do? I manage my relationships accordingly. I know what optimal looks like. So what do? I abstain from all the poison that y'all think y'all can afford a little bit of. I know what optimal looks like. So what do? You see what I'm saying? That means I do the work to eliminate and not manage chronic stress. The average person manages stress. The optimal person eliminates it. You see the difference? We are not the same. And I'm not better and you're not worse. We're just not the same. And so for a lot of you, you've only been taught average. And so everything that you're building right now as it stands is being built from an average mindset. And so if you're not already a 6 and 7 entrepreneur, 7-figure entrepreneur, you're going to go into your business. You're going to go into this thing you're building thinking just not having a diagnosis is enough, and thinking that pushing through when things get hard and pushing through stress and pushing through the point of exhaustion is okay because that's the cost of success. And what are you doing? You're creating this cycle of chronic stress, burnout, and overwhelm. And then 5 years from now, when you're gunning from the New York Times bestseller list, you're going to be less than optimal and you're not going to be equipped because you didn't know what the difference maker was. You didn't know that person 2 doors down with the exact same goal knew what optimal was. Your health is not a competitive advantage.
Hey, it's Coach Lisa. If you've been feeling overwhelmed or stretched thin, or like you know what to do, but you just haven't had the capacity to get it done, this is for you. We recently released our newest coaching program, and it's called the Gold Handle Club. And this is the Imperfect Founders Edition. It's designed to help you eliminate chronic stress one intentional moment at a time. And it's designed, most importantly, to feel easy as opposed to a high pressure program. This isn't another course that you have to keep up with. It's a simple daily ritual paired with real coaching and community support designed to fit into your life and not overwhelm it. Here's how it works. The Go Handle arrives at your door, and every morning for about 5 to 10 minutes, you sit still in silence. You scan the QR code, and every single day, new content unlocks a daily practice built around our signature HER method for eliminating chronic stress. Not managing it, but eliminating it. And because this is our Imperfect Founders Edition, we're doing something super special. You're getting your Go Handle on us. All you'll cover is shipping. Plus, your first 30 days inside of the club and community are completely complimentary so that you can actually feel the difference before making any commitment. So if you're ready to stop pushing off those major decisions that need to be made, those uncomfortable conversations that need to be had, those mindset shifts and that healing that needs to happen now, this is your opportunity to get coached through that without feeling like there's another big appointment on your calendar. This is designed to fit into your quiet time to yourself every morning. So click the link in the show notes, join us inside of the Go Handle Club, take advantage of the Imperfect Founders special offer, and I cannot wait to coach you to optimal health and radical obedience. Now back to the show.
Listen to me. Okay, so Lisa, you convinced me. You've convinced me. I've only been exposed to average. I've only been taught average. I've only been shown average. I realize now that my chronic cycle of burnout and overwhelm is compromising the thing that I'm currently building. So help me to fix it. Okay, we have to regulate the nervous system. Okay, how dare you be a high level entrepreneur, high level creator, a high level 9-to-5er, and not have a regulated nervous system? Let me tell you the first, and in my personal opinion, the most important risk of having a dysregulated nervous system, meaning you're chronically stressed out. Okay, let me tell you the most important risk. When you are chronically stressed out, you lose intelligence. You lose fundamental decision-making ability. Okay, now this is a biological thing. It's a biological thing. So it's very simple. Stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. Okay, so you stressed out. You got I got emails I got to respond to. I got programs I need to create. I got programs I need to sell. I got things I got to market. And then once I sell them, I got to fulfill them. So I got to give people what they bought. And then I also got a team, or I'm trying to hire a team, or I'm trying to get help. And I'm trying to figure all this stuff out, right? So it's a lot of moving pieces. Okay, so you're busy, overwhelmed. And so then on top of all of that, right, you have all of these beliefs that are, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? Is this good? I got some rejection. I got some no. Should I raise my prices? Should I lower my prices? Should I hire that person? Are they good enough? Am I good enough? What about that proposal? Oh my God, disappointment. You got to process all this as an entrepreneur. It's an emotional roller coaster, honestly. Entrepreneurship should be a amusement park, all right? Because it ain't nothing but roller coasters, okay? Will anybody come to my amusement park called entrepreneurship? Okay. And so you got all this stuff going on. And as a result, because we're not taking time every day to critically think, to process, to be still, like we teach you guys to do in Clarity inside the Go Handle Club, because you're not doing that, everything is running together at once. Your stress hormones are elevated. So you got cortisol and adrenaline competing for the top spot in your body. What does that do? When cortisol and adrenaline are competing for the top spot, it sends a signal to your brain that, hey, there's danger around us. And when your brain perceives danger, because it has that cortisol and adrenaline telling it danger, 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 it cuts off the decision-making responsive part of your brain, and it turns on the reactive part of your brain. This is strictly biological. Your business is compromised for biological reasons. You don't realize that the stress hormones that are constantly flooding your body on a daily basis is compromising your ability to think critically, reason, and make healthy decisions. You cannot make healthy decisions from an unregulated place. So what does that mean? If I'm over here trying to put together a winning marketing strategy for my book that I'm going to release, and you're two doors down trying to do the same thing, trying to put together a winning marketing strategy for your new book release, but one of us is dysregulated and one of us are not, guess who's likely to make it? Because you are making decisions, marketing decisions, team decisions, selling decisions, branding decisions, podcast decisions from an unregulated place. That means you are reactive. Why? Because you literally don't have the capacity to make a good decision. Have you guys ever heard of decision fatigue? It's a real thing. So your decisions are not optimal. Over here, I'm regulated. I done meditated and I ate my plants, right? I done got rid of everything that causes me to feel overwhelmed. I done simplified my business model. Like I'm thinking from a clear and healthy place. Can you guys see how your health can be your competitive advantage? And so for me, in my opinion, the thing that's the most risky about trying to be successful when you are chronically stressed is that your brain, your decision-making, your intelligence is compromised. It's not only for the decisions you're making in your career. That means when you're trying to make decisions for your family. That means when you're trying to make financial decisions. That means when you're trying to make diet, breakfast, lunch, and dinner decisions. None of your decisions are optimal. As a matter of fact, did you guys know? Here's some more science. Did you guys know? So if you guys are on a health journey, I know all of us have struggled with willpower. You like, oh, I know this isn't good for me. I know I need to stay away from these energy drinks. I know I need to stay away from the sugar. I know I need to stay from all this processed food, this fast food, all of this stuff. I know it isn't good for me. But how many of you guys have really struggled with motivation and willpower and like sticking to it. Like I could do a day or two, or I can do 7 days, or I can even do 30 days. But man, I always go back. I always go back to the junk. I always revert back. What if I told you it doesn't mean anything's wrong with you as a person? It could mean that your nervous system is overactive. And when your nervous system is overactive, guess what's turned off? Impulse control. When your nervous system is overactive, impulse control is turned off. Why? Because you don't need to control your impulses when you are in danger. When the cortisol and the adrenaline is flooding your body because you're stressed out, there is no impulse control. And here you are trying your best not to eat another cookie, trying your best not to eat a potato chip, trying your best not to have another drink. You can't. There is no impulse control. And then you go beat yourself up because you're like, I can't be consistent. I can't be disciplined. I don't have willpower. Teach me how to do it. Teach me how to Dougie, right? And we can't teach you, baby. You have to regulate your nervous system. You don't need another tip about, well, maybe you should meal plan, right? You don't need another tip about, well, grocery shop. Don't bring the junk home. You don't need what you need is to get somebody in your corner that's going to help you eliminate chronic stress. You keep trying to manage it. You keep trying to live with it. So you give your nervous system a break. Managing chronic stress is giving your nervous system a break, but it's not fixing it. It reminds me of, look, I was born and raised in Detroit. Okay, let's keep it 1,000 wild. I was born and raised in Detroit. So y'all know that I know what a hoopty is. Y'all know do people still say hoopty? Oh Lord, I hope I'm not too old. Okay, y'all know I know what a raggedy car is. My mama used to call it a hoopty. Okay, she's like, wait, we had a hoopty. So if for anybody who has, or maybe your parent has had a hoopty like we used to have in Detroit, right? Motor City. So everybody, before we upgraded, everybody had a car that was point A to point B and it had some issues. So has anybody ever had a car that overheats, right? Well, in Detroit, we did, okay? And having a car that overheats, you got options, right? You got two main options. You can either take it to a professional in Detroit. Your professional is like your cousin or uncle who live in the hood and work on cars. That's neither here nor there. Get out of our business, okay? So you can either take it to a professional, okay, to diagnose the source of it overheating, or every time it overheats, you could just pull over and let it cool off. That's what y'all do when you manage chronic stress. You don't take it to a professional to get it diagnosed and get to the source of the overheating so it will stop overheating. You just get so overheated, physically, mentally, emotionally, overwhelmed. I need a vacation day. Overwhelmed. I need a mental health day. Overwhelmed. I need a drink. Overheat. Let me just go, decompress with the homies, decompress with the girls. Let me have a girls or a guys weekend. Overheat. Let me have a date night with my bae, or let me spend some time with, my friends and my family. Overheat. But we never go get the diagnosis so that we can stop the overheating. So here we are. Whole body is a hoopty, okay? And we're constantly overheating. And as a result, we get right back in the car, start it up, and drive it again until it overheats again. That's you. That's your nervous system. And so as a result, guess what? Your intelligence is constantly compromised. Your impulse control is turned off. So you can't consistently exercise. Like, it's so hard, so challenging to be consistent with exercise or with healthy eating, with drinking water. It's so hard to be consistent with meditation or any mindfulness practice when you are constantly overheating and you're not getting a diagnosis. You just keep cutting it off so that you can cool down for a moment before you start it up again and go again. If you've been in this cycle, put me in the comments. I'm just trying to bless you. Say, Coach, I'm a hoopty. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been there. I'm with you, Coach. Tis me, okay? I keep overheating and I keep thinking management is the solution. I keep thinking I just need to breathe. I just need to meditate. I just need to yoga. That's just pulling off to the side of the road and cooling off, right? Thank you for the honest people in the chat on Instagram. Like I'm just cooling off, but I'm not doing the real work. Like the reason I'm really overheating is because I haven't resolved the fractured relationship with my mom, and that causes stress. I haven't resolved my fractured marriage. I haven't took care of the reasons that I'm financially unstable. I haven't dealt with the thing I need to heal from. I suffer with people pleasing or rejection or perfectionism. So I just let myself overheat and then I cool off. And then we just keep the cycle going. And at the same time, got the nerve to have a goal, got the nerve to have a dream. At the same time, let me get this straight. You gonna try and pull this hoopty into this mansion? So you gonna take this hoopty of a body and this hoopty of a nervous system and then go try and achieve this beautiful dream. Get out of that neighborhood with that hoopty. We don't want that around here. Your dream living this beautiful what are you thinking? What is happening? Get that hoopty out of here. Go fix that. Okay, get a healthy running vehicle that ain't making all of that noise, and then come back and try and achieve the goal. You're really trying to build a business, a brand, a personal platform, an exceptional career. You're really trying to write a New York Times bestseller. You're really trying to have a #1 podcast, and you driving a hoopty. What is happening? You're bringing a dysregulated nervous system to a bunch of foolishness. So we have to understand that your health has to be a competitive advantage in business. Your health has to be a competitive advantage in your career. And it starts, if you have been in a cycle of overwhelm, burnout, and constant pressure, it starts with regulating the nervous system. So here's a couple ways before I get out of here. I think I done yelled at y'all enough today. What time is it? Before I get out of here, let me give you a couple of things that you need to start doing. #1, which I mentioned earlier, which is know what optimal is. Understand that just being disease-free, being somebody who values movement and eating right is not enough. That's baseline, that's average, that's middle of the road health. Optimal means I'm regulated through and through, okay? Understand what optimal needs to mean for the goals that you're trying to achieve. But then let's get to some more practical things. There's a couple of things. The first one is what you eat. Your diet, guys, your diet is one of the ways you begin to regulate your nervous system when you are chronically stressed. You have to have a balanced, nutritious diet. Now, a lot of you guys know I'm a whole food, plant-based vegan by choice. I've been teaching it for years to other people. You have to have why are you putting stuff in your body that causes hyperactivity in the brain? Why would you be consuming all of those energy drinks and all of that caffeine? Why would you be consuming all of that coffee full of dairy and sugar? Why would you be consuming all of those fast food, those quick grab snacks that's full of sugar, food dyes? Why are you eating all that takeout that's full of MSG? Your nervous system is going to be shot to, y'all know what I was about to say, because you're pouring all of this poison and toxins into your body that's causing hyperactivity. I remember somebody close to me was in the hospital because their spleen had erupted. And I remember the hospital trying to give them whatever our hospital snacks be having. Like, y'all know I read the label and everything. So I picked it up, turned it over, and I said, absolutely not. Why would you give them food dyes? And I remember this doctor, you know, I'm kind of going back and forth a little bit with my kind, gentle, soft personality that I have. And eventually she's like, yeah, you're right. I don't even eat this. I don't even give it to my kids because all of these food dyes have been proven to cause hyperactivity. So ADD, ADHD, we think people are just born this way. We think something wrong with our kids. We think something wrong with us when we have adult onset of these diagnoses. Like, stop eating the food dyes. Stop eating the MSG. Stop eating the refined processed sugar. So part of the reason it's going to help your brain to calm down so that you can start thinking critically and making better decisions and get back regulated is going to be stop eating the foolishness. Now, it's kind of a catch-22 because I told you that when you are chronically stressed and when your nervous system is already overactive, you have no impulse control. So the first part of this equation is you're going to have to crunch up a little bit of the impulse control that might be left, and you got to use it. And let me tell you the quickest way to do this, okay? Because diet is one of the ways that you're going to regulate your nervous system. But unfortunately, because impulse control is one of the first things that you lose when you are chronically stressed, you cannot try and use a moderation approach. Can't do it. Not an option. Look, my coach is Dr. Eric Thomas, ET, right? And so I've been helping him in his health for years now, right? And I remember me and E, we sat down and had a conversation about health and sugar. It's on my podcast channel. Many of you guys have watched the interview, right? And we talked about stress and we talked about eating and we talked about diet. And I remember we talked about moderation. And Coach E.T., he's like, man, I really used to think I could just have a little bit. I really used to think I was doing okay by drinking less sugar, because he flies a lot as a speaker, right? And he's like, Lisa, I won't buy it, but because I fly first class all the time, it's just readily available. So if they offer me a soda, I would have it. That would be my treat. He said, and especially because they got the small cans, like I felt really good about myself. And Coach E.T. said, and I really thought I was doing something because I knew not to drink the dark sodas like the Coke and the Pepsi. So if it was light, like a Sprite or a 7-Up, a lemon lime soda, that felt cleaner, right? And so he was like, I was trying to do better. And so through our conversation and other exposures, he realized that, oh, I got to go cold turkey. I can't have a little bit. Like the level that I'm playing on, the goals and aspirations that I have, the people that I'm responsible for, that I'm making decisions on the behalf of, need my brain to be sharp. I can't do moderation. And for a lot of you, it's the same requirement. For a lot of us, it's the same requirement. So the first way you begin to regulate your nervous system is by eating like you got some sense. But trust me when I tell you, if you are chronically stressed, like we've been talking about today, you have little to no impulse control, which means you are not going to be able to moderate. You have to be all in or all out. I hate to break it to you. This is what the next level requires. The average moderates, the optimal eliminates. The average moderates, the optimal eliminates. So the average person will reduce the amount of sugar they have. They will reduce the amount of fast food they have. They will reduce the amount of ultra processed food they have. The optimal, those of us who are gunning for the New York Times bestseller, those are us who are gunning to make Black history. We eliminate the refined processed sugar. We eliminate the things that upsets our stomach. We eliminate the things that causes brain fog. We don't just have it on a week. We don't just have it sometimes. Like the average moderates, the optimal eliminates. You know what? I'm gonna put that on a shirt so y'all can stop me in the street and I can tell you exactly what it means and make you feel a certain way. Okay? Eat like you got some sense is the first way to regulate your nervous system. Stop putting they're called excitotoxins. Let me give you some terminology. I know some of you guys are science geeks like me. They're called excitotoxins, okay? So the excitotoxins, the MSG, the food dyes, the refined sugar, all of these chemicals that they pour in food to make it more palatable causes the hyperactivity in the brain, which means when you say things to me like, Lisa, I tried to meditate. I tried to be still. I tried to sit in silence, like you said, every single morning, but my brain is just moving all over the place. There's so much going on, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah. And part of that reason is because you literally are chugging excitotoxins. I got to have 2 cups of coffee just to survive. I live off of energy drinks, excitotoxins. Part of the reason everything is jumping off the walls up there is because you're literally eating and drinking the hyperactivity. Regulate the nervous system. Start with your diet. I'm gonna give you one more tip. Now, there's about 7, but I'm gonna give you one more before I get out of here because I gotta go and that's all we got time for, okay? Because some of y'all, your nervous system is ruining your business and it's a sad thing to watch. So let me give you one more tip, and that is going to be the mindfulness. Okay, now for years, when I started meditating, I don't know who I started with first. I think it might have been Michael Beckwith or Light Watkins, but both of them, and I love their meditations. And then now today, I also love Joe Dispenza meditations as well. So mindfulness has been scientifically proven over and over and over and over again to help regulate the nervous system. Now, the challenge for a lot of us is the time it takes. The challenge for a lot of us is we don't feel like we see instant results. We don't think it's working. Lisa, my brain was all over the place. I didn't focus. I couldn't focus. So like, it's not doing nothing, right? And so it's you expect to see, at least when you exercise, right? You do it right long enough, you can see some physical results. The issue with mindfulness for a lot of us is that we don't feel like we have evidence that that's working, and it takes time. Like another thing I got to do. But I cannot overstate the power of being still every day, right? So now for me, I meditate every day immediately upon waking. And then sometimes I get another one in the middle of the day too. Because for many of us, we don't have control over our brain and our thoughts. They have control over us. And we don't realize that we don't need to will ourselves into thinking different. We just need to train our subconscious with different material. So I like a good guided meditation, for example. And whatever you're trying to manifest in life or a version of you that you're trying to become, you can do that quicker and easier through a guided, intentional meditation that feeds your subconscious mind either immediately upon waking or right before bed. That is when your subconscious mind is more susceptible to a new belief. And mindfulness helps regulate the nervous system because you teach your nervous system that calm is safe. You teach your nervous system that there is no threat. Because what you don't realize is that when those elevated levels of cortisol and adrenaline are constantly high in your body, that's teaching your body that there's always a threat. And the body doesn't know that the threat is not physical. The body just knows that there's a threat. And so it starts reacting biologically so you can flee from the threat. It doesn't realize that it's just you laying there thinking about something stressful. It doesn't realize that it's a relationship. It doesn't realize that it's a problem you're trying to solve. It's just like, hey, there's a threat and we need to react. And so what mindfulness helps you to do is to teach your body that it's safe to be calm. Everything isn't urgent. But when you say stuff like, I don't have time for that, you're inadvertently saying that everything else is urgent and you're constantly up and let me go solve everybody else's problems instead of taking time for myself. That's why several months ago, we launched the Go Handle Club, because individuals need to institute a mindfulness habit into their lives to regulate their nervous system so that we can activate radical obedience on a good foundation. Most of us, our foundations suck. We got sucky foundations. We're literally trying to build a business, or we're literally trying to grow in our career. We're literally trying to find a life partner and have a healthy relationship. We're literally trying to start a family off a dysregulated nervous system and a sucky foundation. Why would you go into a new thing as the less than optimal version of yourself? You're literally trying to write a book, launch a podcast, create content from a super hyperactive, stressed out nervous system. And so you're not even creating from your best self. You're not thinking and making decisions from your best self. You're literally driving this hoopty into this nice neighborhood. And you're going to clunk out and you're going to be on the side of the road trying to figure out why everybody else is making a New York Times bestseller list but you. Okay, everybody else's business is making money but yours. Everybody else's relationship is thriving but not yours. It doesn't mean none of us have problems, but when you start the day, every day, in silence and stillness to process, the main thing you're doing initially is teaching your body that calm is safe, that there is no urgency, that I don't have to rush to solve everybody's problems. And so we created the Go Handle Club for that moment. For those of you who don't know, the Go Handle Club is a coaching program inside of our community, Clarity, that's dedicated to the elimination of chronic stress. It's very simple. Every day, you scan your gold handle and you get a daily moment of clarity from me. There's a 365-day coaching experience. You listen to 5 to 10 minutes of it and you sit still. There's breath work, there's guided direction and coaching. And then you engage with the community. And then every Thursday, you can come to the Go Handle gathering where we meditate together for 10 minutes. And then we talk through moments of clarity that we're having as we're healing and unlocking the things that need to be worked on so we can stop managing stress and start eliminating stress. Let me give you an example. Recently, inside of the Go Handle Club, we had one of our members admit that their marriage was the main source of their chronic stress, and that they had finally decided that they're going to take a bold action, make a bold decision, and do something about it, right? Like, so it's no more, I'm just going to stay here for another 1, 2, 5, 10 years because I don't believe in myself, or I don't trust myself, or I don't think I'm good enough to find anybody else. When I say stop managing stress and start eliminating, that's what I mean. right? We are not making bold enough decisions. Why? Because we don't have the mental and neurological capacity to do so. Why? Because we're all overactive. We don't sit in stillness. We don't think. We don't process. We just go. Or we just stay somewhere that we've outgrown, whether it be a job or a relationship, because we're unhealed. So maybe we only think in lack and can't think in abundance. And so we're like, I can never leave here. I'm just going to end up homeless. It's like, nobody said you had to leave today, but can you create a plan and start executing? Like, we so scared of the world because we don't take enough time to be still, to think, to process. So that will be my second tip, boys and girls. Mindfulness and nutrition. If there's anywhere to start, those will be the first two places to start with regulating your nervous system so that you can reactivate, jumpstart your intelligence again, your neurological functioning, your decision making, your problem solving, and your critical thinking skills. Your brain hasn't been equipped to do that probably for months or years if you've been burnt out and stressed out, and you're literally out here trying to create brand new stuff from the reactive part of your brain. It's called the forebrain and the hindbrain. One is reactive, one is responsive. So one is intelligence, the other one is just don't think, react. So many of you have been in don't think, react for so long, and you're not making good, healthy, reasonable decisions. And now all of us, everybody around you, is being penalized because you're making these sucky decisions because you're living your life on this crappy foundation because you don't think you have time to take care of yourself. Or maybe you just hadn't listened to this episode and you ain't realized that being average healthy was not good enough. So now that you know we gunning for optimal, I need you to do something different. Okay, guys. I think that's it. This was good today. Thank you guys for hopping on as I begin to talk more on topics like this for really, high-performing individuals, high-performing entrepreneurs. For those of you who aspire to be that, I hope you continue to come back. For those of you who are there, I hope you lock in and take at least one thing from today that you need to go to the next level or to stay at the level you are. Sometimes arriving is not the goal, it's staying there that becomes the goal. And so if you're dysregulated, that's going to be really, really hard to do. And so I hope I've really dismantled the stress piece for you guys today, that all stress isn't created equal, and that your business strategy is not the problem, your nervous system is, okay? Love you guys. Until next Monday. Bye, y'all.
You tuned in today because, like me, you refuse to let your good become the enemy of your great. You're not settling for good health when optimal is well within reach. If you're ready to go from good to great, visit lisaangelsmith.com to learn more about our plant-based health coaching program, Farm to Table, and our plant-based business accelerator and coaching certification. But before you go, if you enjoyed what you heard today, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast. Until next time, remember, radical obedience is still undefeated. Stay obedient.